number of people in person to come and order and conduct business. The committee members are expected to attend meeting in person unless you have a disability or an extraordinary circumstance. And if that is the case, you need to talk to Jessie Bodine or Janine to let them know in advance. And excused committee members who are joining via Zoom must leave their camera on all the time so that we know they are there. And then we encourage members of the public to join and participate virtually. And the reason for that is you see the size of the room. If everybody comes, we are not going to be able to accommodate everybody. A copy of our hybrid policy is available on our website. And tonight's meeting is still being recorded and currently live streaming on YouTube, like the Zoom was. Any questions from anybody? This is cool. Get it? You're supposed to recognize the number of the meeting. Yes. And that's it. So I want to take it on from, and so I am Christine Berthet, the co-chair of the Transportation Committee. I'll be chairing this meeting. And this is.
I am Jesse Greenwald, the other co-chair. This is my first Transportation Committee meeting that I am co-chairing.
And why don't we go around and introduce ourselves?
I'm Glenn Brandon. I'm part of this committee. Happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Charlie Todd, member of the committee.
Alan Austin, a member from Chelsea.
Tina Nelson, member. Alex Long, also member.
Gwen Zillett, member.
Brett Ferber, public member.
Very good. Thank you.
Amazing.
So
amazing technology.
Amazing technology. And we have to thank Janine and Jesse and for setting that up and testing it, and and because it was a lot of work to get that stuff working. So so the first item on the agenda is a DOT presentation on West 22nd Street. And do we have DOT to make this presentation? Yes, very good.
Yes, hi.
Perfect.
Yeah. Should I commence?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, okay, great. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Corinne Patterson. I'm with the Public Space Unit at DOT, and I will be presenting the design proposal.
You need to speak just a little bit louder.
Okay, let me turn.
There are people in the room, and what comes out of the speaker is not strong enough.
Okay, if I turn up my volume, is that helping? Or I'll just
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. I will do that. Okay. And then I will also share my screen here. So everyone should be looking at the first slide of my presentation.
Yes.
Yes, wonderful. Okay, great. So as I had mentioned, I'm with Department of Transportation with the Public Space Unit, and my name is Corinne Patterson. And this evening, I'm going to be walking you all through the West 22nd Street Open Street Design Proposal. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about the project history and the outreach to date for this location. Just to orient everyone, I'm talking about 22nd Street here, the black dashed line between 8th Avenue on the west and 7th Avenue on the east. This is our project area for discussion this evening. So project history. This project, as you may be aware, is part of the Open Streets program. Open Streets was an emergency response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The emergency response program ran from May 2020 to May 2021. Then in May 2021, Local Law 55 was passed that made Open Streets a permanent program within New York City. As part of this legislation, DOT is required to evaluate existing open streets to determine whether any such open streets could benefit from additional traffic calming measures and streetscape elements. want to jump now to the project site. So our design proposal extends from 8th Avenue to 7th Avenue on 22nd. And it is primarily comprised of pedestrian extensions here that you see in the tan, and then mid-block traffic calming elements, which we also refer to as HUDs. We'll go into a little bit more detail about those. All of those elements that you saw on the preceding page would be installed using the tools from our public realm toolkit. That includes epoxy gravel, which is this tan pavement color, flexible delineators, planters, and granite blocks. Moving now to our outreach to date. In spring of 2021, there was a community survey that was launched. It was performed by Transportation Alternatives and the Open Streets partner. 156 responses were received. Then in fall of 2022, in October, there was a community visioning workshop that was organized by West 22nd Street Open Street Coalition and the Collective for Community Culture and Environment. There were over 50 participants with over 550 comments and suggestions received. There was additionally a SWOT analysis and feedback on design and programming proposals for this location. Community in winter 2022, winter 2023, Community Board 4, December voted in favor of changes to the West 22nd Street Open Street, including changes to hours of operation, barricade placement, and frequency of programming. Then in January, there was a vote to support the goals of the community workshop report to implement designs that encourage slow vehicle speeds while maintaining access. Just to give you an idea of some of the findings from the survey and the workshop results, some of the top items were improve open street entrance area and gates, improve open street entrance signage, different open street activities, add plants and green zones, seating, gathering, etc., etc. Now I'm going to move us into the design proposal for this location, which we saw in a preceding slide, and we'll again talk about in a little bit more detail. So the project goals for this area include evolving, the West 22nd Street Open Street beyond the barricades. So that means removing the temporary French barricade that is currently used. And these are some of the ways in which we do that. That is by formalizing the traffic calming effects from the open street, enhancing safety for pedestrians and cyclists, and providing public space amenities. Some of the tools that we use will be adding shared street signage, which includes here, you can see in this first circle, a suggested 5 mile per hour speed limit, and signage indicating that there are pedestrians and cyclists. In addition, mid-block traffic calming, you see the 6 here, which, and then in this example here is on Sharon Street, another location that we've already installed this. This is in Brooklyn by Cooper Park. They're comprised of planters, flex delineators, and granite blocks. They help pinch the traffic when the cars drive through, while maintaining emergency access. And then lastly, at both street ends, we would be adding pedestrian neck downs that would also have granite blocks, planters, the possibility for tables and chairs if that's something that's of interest, but also bike corrals for bike parking. On this page, you can get a better idea of what this mid-block traffic calming looks like. This is on Sharon Street. And here's jumping into the specifics of the design proposal. As I mentioned, on 8th Avenue, we would have a 5 mile per hour signage, bike parking, and then these tan neck downs here at the corners, which slow turns and calm traffic at the street entrance. In addition, 6 hugs, or the mid-block traffic calming, which you saw in the earlier photo And that precedent that's been installed on Sharon Street in Brooklyn. These would have planters, granite blocks, and flexible delineators. Moving east on the street, we would maintain the garage access. There's enough clearance, another set of hugs, and then expanded sidewalk space and neck downs, which on both 8th and 7th Avenue, they work to shorten pedestrian crossings, and there would also be bike parking. The parking impact to the neighborhood, or excuse me, to the street is outlined here. So there would be 12 spots impacted, with 2 spots here on 8th Avenue, which are currently existing truck loading zones. And that would, so currently used as weekend overnight spots. And then lastly, emergency access. In all of our projects, we design for emergency access. So the red volume here indicates the passage or the route of a fire truck, shows the turn clearance for FDNY and other emergency vehicles from 8th Avenue to 7th Avenue. And then lastly, our next steps. So we're here in June for the Community Board 4 presentation, summer, fall, potential implementation and further project evaluation, and then 2023 and beyond, further evaluation and additional community feedback to assess this project and Slow Streets. Thank you.
So, excuse me, so the protocol is that we have the members of the committee asking questions, then the public will speak, and then the committee will take it back and have a discussion about the subject, right? So we start with a question from the members.
Okay, great. And I'll leave the presentation up if that works for everyone.
Yeah, so the members, we need to speak really one at a time, because otherwise the people which are online, it's really very confusing. So we have to be, as I said, just one at a time. So who has raised your hand? Tina.
Just one question, other than the obvious, the change of mileage, are there any other signage changes that relate to vehicles? In other words, was the parking change, the parking signs, any other signage change or proposed to be changed?
Let me go back here to this. Oops. So yes, so the 5 mile per hour signage at the corner on 8th Avenue, if there is like the if there is a loading zone, or no standing anytime signage that is currently installed, and then we install mid-block traffic calming, we would remove that drive rail because that would be redundant and that sidewalk clutter. But my understanding is that all of the parking regulations as they are on the street would stay the same as they are.
So if I summarize it, it's like it all stays the way it is, except for the loading zone, and it will be changed.
Yes, that is my understanding.
Okay. Yes.
And then the inclusion of the 5 mile per hour sign at the 8th Avenue. Yes, correct.
Viren.
Yeah, just one very quick question. Besides the changes that you just described, any change in the materials?
Sorry, I didn't, changing of the.
In the materials.
In the actual paving
Oh,
or material?
Yeah, no, the material, so all of our materials, I guess I'll start here. All of our materials are surface treatment. So it's they would be this epoxy gravel, which is the tan here, the double white lines, granite blocks, and then planters.
So actual stick bed is going to remain exactly the way it is. That's not being changed.
Yeah, I mean, the pavement, this would be the only inclusion of materials. So
even at both entrances, you're not putting any kind of gravel or sort of to how
no,
people street down or whatever, nothing?
Yeah, that's, sorry, I can't hear really well. But
Let me say it very slowly. At both ends of the street, are you changing any paving?
no, everything is surface. So it is, you can think of it as painting on the surface. So the pavement is not broken. It's just a surface treatment.
No, I understand. I mean, I think
Okay.
my suggestion would be.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. Not yet.
I will add there is an asphalt art program. That would be a separate thing. It's through DOT, and community groups can apply. Usually, there's at least a 6-month lead time, but they can apply to do art within some of these like larger pedestrian spaces. It's a case-by-case basis. So I'm not sure if that is answering your question at all, but.
Yes, see.
Thanks for the presentation. So my two questions are the only two precedents citywide, are they Sharon Street and West 103rd? And then to follow up on that, have there been any issues on those streets? Any lessons learned that you're implementing here for this particular street?
Yeah, so to your question, yes, Sharon Street and West 103rd, we have one designed for the Bronx for 2024 implementation. So we are starting to put these in other residential areas or areas with like a high kind of density of residential buildings. I'm in frequent contact with the partner on Sharon Street, and they love it. I mean, they would love it if it was even more aggressive, but we need to maintain emergency vehicle access. They, initially some folks were concerned about parking laws, but the inclusion of planting and granite blocks was seen as a benefit to the neighborhood. And it has helped to slow traffic. They're enthusiastic. They would love to have more. So
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a question about the plantings that are seen in the photo. Is the local community or the open street organization responsible for watering? Who does the upkeep with the plantings?
yeah, so in general, those are it kind of depends on the site, but in this location, my understanding is that it is we are working with the partner with some support from the Horticultural Society of New York.
And one more question. Have you considered, or would you consider for a project like this, a raised sidewalk at the intersection? Is that like a raised crosswalk? Is that something in the toolkit?
So it is within DOT's larger toolkit for a project in temporary materials at this stage. It's not a tool that we can employ, but it is something that is happening throughout the city or starting to happen throughout the city. And there's a set of criteria that need to be met in order for a raised crosswalk to be implemented. And that is probably, I could be misrepresenting it, but I want to say that's maybe at least a 2-year process. And that I think for this specific locations or even other locations within this district, I would say that the Pauline or someone from the Manhattan Borough Commissioner's Office could follow up to speak to folks about that.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's Colleen from DOT. So I can follow up with my colleagues and see, if this location is feasible for a raised crosswalk as well. And we can, we'll follow up with the community board.
Thank you.
Alan, what's next?
Thank you. What is the distance between the two bump outs?
I think it is 11 feet, but it may be 10. That is a number that I need to double check and get back. I can send that information to the community board, or after I'm done presenting, I can go check the drawings and drop that in the chat.
Thank you.
And Pete, you have.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Great presentation. Have you thought of having reflectors on the entrance?
Well,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, I didn't. So there is a level of reflectivity on the street signs that we install, and then I don't know if it's visible on your end on the screen, but the flex delineators have 2 bands of reflective tape, for lack of a better word. So there is so that when cars or anyone with lights is driving at night, there is a reflection that happens.
Okay. So now we're going to take a comment from the public.
Can I just technically, can I just ask, it seems like you're having some difficulty hearing us in this room. Janine, first of all, is that true? And Janine, where is the microphone? Look, is it the center console thing here?
So the microphone is the owl. I can hear you clearly. I'm not sure if maybe the volume on Karen's computer is.
Yeah, I think it's low quality headphones.
Okay, so just making sure.
Thank you.
That's fine, that's good to know, but for those of the public in the room, you know, I guess project into this microphone here so they can hear you.
Yeah, and also too many rock shows in my 20s.
So I guess what we'll do is one person from here and then another one online and alternate. I know it's a little more complicated, but I want people online to feel like they are.
Do we know how many we have online?
I think Janine can take care of that, right?
Yeah, there's 8 hands. So once you call on the person in person, I will bring each person.
Okay, all right. So we're going to take one person from here, which the lady or the gentleman.
Thank CB4 and the Department of Transportation for this proposal, but I would like to stand in opposition to this. My first question, and I'll be as brief as possible, who in this room and who on this Zoom call actually lives on 22nd Street between 7th and 8th? Is there?
The people who are going to talk, we'll ask them where they live.
I know, but I'm asking specifically because the 3 of us that are here live on 22nd Street, and I want to know who else is representing.
I know, we're going to ask them, because we don't know.
Okay, if we could get a rate, okay, I'd like to know, because in the last 48 hours, I've collected 50 signatures in opposition to this, just based on the fact that the proposal involves moving parking. I am a small business owner. I can barely afford to live in Manhattan, and I can barely afford my car. I can certainly not afford a garage. The idea that they're going to further restrict our parking, where they have already on our block and in the surrounding blocks, installed city bikes, installed commercial zones, installed meters, and the encroachment on our free parking has gone far enough. This is going to take away additional spots. I have a petition that I started on change.org just 2 days ago. I put flyers on the windshields on 22nd Street with a QR code on it. I've collected 50 signatures that I want to email to enter into the record. I saw that there are 156 people surveyed on this, and only 10 of them said anything about parking being a problem. I think that there is an issue with people who don't own cars, don't really understand why people own cars. And we have family that lives out of state, and we don't maintain a car to get around in the city. We maintain a car to freely come and go from the city as we need to. And the cost of traveling around the city, with congestion pricing as it is, I mean, it's just, there's constant encroaching on people's parking. But there's another aspect here. So part of the petition was about parking, but the other part is about noise. We have a really, really severe problem on 22nd Street with noise. We have a pestilence of construction. It's been going on for years. We also have a bar that has people coming and going at all hours of the night. We don't begrudge them, but we get a lot of mentally ill people screaming in the streets at all hours. And between the noise that's happening at all hours and the construction, precious little time is quiet. So if we have people who are hanging out and using this, there's no way for the city to enforce keeping that quiet. We're not going to yell out the window and say, hey, be quiet. We're not going to go down and confront people. But thank you, but no thank you. We stand in, now that I've heard the proposal, I stand in very strong opposition to it, and I'm going to maintain this, and I'm going to continue to fight this proposal until hopefully it goes away. And, you know, whatever you need to do on other blocks is for another block.
Could you send us the petition? And especially with the address of the people, so we know where they are, where they live, or at least their zip code.
I wish that I had the addresses.
But the zip code is fine, I was just.
Yeah,
But,
I will actually start a new petition now that I've heard this and we've had the specific things.
okay, but I'm asking
didn't
for the
know-
existing petition.
Well, all I have is names.
No, I know, but you can send the result, download the petition and send it to the office, right? To
Yeah,
the office.
I'm just saying that I don't have additional data other than names and email addresses on this petition. But
You,
now that
you mean you don't have a zip code?
I went on change.org.
But
and
there
I
is
set up
a
a
zip
form.
code on.
There are emails, so I don't have that, but like, the only way people know about this is because they were scanning a QR code that was on windshields on 22nd Street.
All right.
I understand you need something more formal, and I'll be happy to, given more time, I'm sure I can collect a lot more. than
No, the
50
zip code is important because it just goes to the heart of what you're talking about, which is where people are living on this block or not, you know, and even.
Technically, we're a city of transference, so your zip code may not match necessarily.
Okay, well, all right.
You're right.
So why don't you do that, and we appreciate that. Now, from now on, I think we have, we need to time it to.
I think, well, we have 12, if you are planning on speaking on this issue online, can you please raise your hand on the, on Zoom? So I'm seeing 11 or 12, so 12 up, it's going up.
Right.
Yeah, if you're speaking in favor or against, just to be clear.
Right.
14,
So we need 1 minute.
1 minute, okay.
Right.
So we're gonna be limiting future speakers to, and, you know, apologies for not setting this out ahead of time, but we're gonna be, future speakers to 1 minute, which I'll be keeping track of.
So let's move on the next 3 speakers.
Yeah.
So I brought Molly over, you can start with her.
Is it me, Molly? It's hard to hear from the people that are in person. Sorry about that. It goes in and out. I'll start. My name is Molly Harris. I'm a resident of the 200 block of West 22nd Street, along with Ben. And I am also on the executive board of the 200 West Block Association. I've been active in getting the barriers removed from the 8th Avenue entrance. Many of you know that, as part of the Open Streets program. I know that the Shared Street program plan is different. First, thank you for having this hearing. Unlike with the Open Streets program, the community has never had an opportunity to be heard on shared streets. There has been no survey taken on shared streets and no open forum for people to speak. Using the 2021 survey about temporary COVID measures is bootstrapping. The community design workshop in October of 2022 was just that, a design workshop. And those of us who were there were forbidden to speak unless we were discussing whether we wanted plants or a dog run or yoga on the street. It was not an open forum. So this notion from the DOT is a bit disingenuous. And if you were there, you would know that. And also I want to say the 50 members who were at that community forum, many did not live in the neighborhood. And because there have been a lot of confusion about the differences between open streets and shared streets, this hearing will be first community board forum dedicated to the permanent shared street program. Whatever the final plans are, I implore DOT.
We gotta move on. Thank you very much.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, yeah, well, just to be clear, I just for timing's sake, we'll be here all night. We just gotta keep all future.
I get it. Can I say one more? I have one more sentence. I just want one more sentence. I want to just close saying that the idea of the traffic calming members on the street, comparing West 103rd and Sharon Street are not through streets river to river. So the traffic concerns are totally different with the emergency vehicle responses. These are apples and oranges. That's it.
Okay,
Great.
thank you so much. Yes.
Yeah, so,
Just speak really loudly so that I can hear you.
I also live on the block. I'm married to Ben. We work together, okay? And just like the.
You have 1 minute, right? You know.
Right, the lady just said here, we were never asked. There was no email, They know where we live. They could have sent us letters in the mail, in the physical mailbox. They could have sent emails. They could have put something on the block. We were never asked. And to lose 12 parking spots is insane. Like, we work from home, and to have to leave our work to sit in the car 2 days a week anyway to park, because you have to sit between 9 o'clock and 10:30, then to have to go to a different block, adds another 15 minutes to circle around and walk from your house. It's too much, okay? And we live near Chelsea Piers. We can go to the park elsewhere. We don't have to walk around along the street. So I am very much against this too. So thank you so much for listening to us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
What's the next person?
Next person online, please.
Wade.
Steve, can you take the presentation down so we can see people?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Can we take the presentation down just so that we can see the speakers more clearly online? Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, this is Wade, is it my turn to speak?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm sorry, my camera is not functioning because I'm not in my normal office environment. I'll speak quickly because I'll respect your 1 minute rule. Karen, you said something about dropping things into the chat. I don't have the chat option on mine, so I don't know if that's not enabled, but if it could be enabled and for things that you're sharing would be great. My other question is, in the full of Manhattan, there's only one example of another street, which is West 103rd. Is that correct?
No, that's not the case. That's, they told about 3 of them.
Okay. How was 22nd Street chosen? If there's a short answer to that?
Well, you may remember that there was that workshop done, and
Yes.
at the workshop you saw the presentation of what were the outcome, and then that whole issue came to the community board, and the community board took that, and there was a vote taken to say we'd like to explore a shared street on 22nd Street. So this was very public, and let me finish. It was very public, and it was, clear to everybody that the community board, reflecting the ask of the community, was asking for a study of that. And here is the study. So the study is coming out after a workshop and after a presentation and vote by the community board.
And then Karen, I'm sorry, I don't say your name right. How many parking spaces did you say would go away? Was it 8 or 10?
It's 12.
No, it's
Well,
really 10, because there was 2 of them which are.
Right. And order of magnitude, there's about 100 on the block, probably 50 on each side.
80.
No, less. Fewer.
There's construction on both sides.
Well, but construction doesn't count.
So my concern is not from the lack of parking, because I think it's very nominal as a percentage of the parking in the neighborhood. My concern is, has anybody given any thought to the after effect of this beautiful block and the sitting areas and the planters? We have a loitering problem in the neighborhood that used to be on the avenue, 21st to 20th. I'm sure everybody who lives in the neighborhood knows about the loitering problem. Is this going to attract people to sort of like, hey, this is a great place to hang out? So,
Thank you
undesirable people.
Move on. I let you go longer because of the back and
Well,
forth.
I didn't speak a full minute because you were speaking during my minute, and I'd like to answer somebody to address the question of undesirable people hanging out.
Do you ignore the question for this?
No, just wait a minute.
Okay.
With the,
Just wanna hear- just wanna hear.
it's very confusing.
People have a right to their opinion to be heard.
We know.
DOT, this is our opportunity to speak. Colleen, what did you say?
We know, sir, could you let me
Okay, so you should.
drive the process and make sure that everybody's heard, okay? We don't need to wait. Okay, all right. So this is a new system. It's not very conducive, and it's difficult to manage. So, and we have a lot of people, and we're all going to be here, not paid until probably 11 o'clock. So let us all speak. So, who is it? What's his last name? The WB, right? I don't know your name, but what was your last question?
My question was, has anybody given any thought to the attraction of undesirable people hanging out in these new beautiful calming planter delineation things that have benches and and places that people could
Yeah, I'm going
loiter
to-
that we don't want in the neighborhood.
We are going to note your question and ask all of them at the end of DOT. That's going to be more effective than interrupting. I made a speech and it was not appropriate to make a speech. So loitering is an issue. Okay, so now we have now it's your turn.
Hey, so, Debbie gets a good point. The benches are going to be homeless beds. Let's be honest, they're not going to be places where people will congregate for lunch or food, it's simply where loitering will occur. That's a guarantee. I don't agree with the spots total. It said 5 and 5 on the edges of the block, and then it said 2, 2, 2, 2 for each hub. The hub would be 2, 4, 6, 12 on the hubs, I believe, and how that countdown breaks down with one of the slides that came up earlier. So it's not 12, it's 12 in the hubs. So that's not the accurate number. And 2, if you look at the design of that example they provided, it's very narrow. And this street is loaded with delivery men and drivers and construction trucks. So that little hub space is not actually a valid space to be open. So the one question is for the board leaders: 1, safety of the street and congregate areas. Those hubs become hangout spaces, plain and simple, and not for the residents, but those passing by. Distinguish the two. 2, the parking spots taken away, which obviously one car, it sucks. And I want that count to be double checked, please. And 3, those hubs are actually not safe. Considering all the bikes that drive down, all the construction vehicles go down the street, those hubs look like just simply plastic barrier that we run over left and right. And honestly, I don't see the purpose. If the car's already there, why are you blocking more streets? It doesn't make sense. You're not gonna have a car speed around in the car already. It's a narrow street. It's just like fitting a circle into a square, what you're doing with this idea. It doesn't come across as properly thought out or like an idea that I'm taking wrong there.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's a quick question from people on the block, just information. Just a quick question. So is there, the block is entirely residential? Are there any other businesses?
There are small businesses, there's a loading dock for movie theaters that we fear will get demolished.
But the block is pretty much.
There's
There's
a, I spoke to the woman who owns the laundromats, there's also, she's terrified because she's a little older woman.
I just wanna know what the.
There's a very small.
All right, we need to get on, because when you speak like that, the people on the screen can't, but we cause that, so. Next, Janine, who is the next person?
Jeff is next.
Who?
Jeff Preston.
Okay.
Jeff, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Sorry, I'm in a dark for a second. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, it's hard to hear on the Zoom, so you know. But first of all, thank you for making the presentation. 2 comments. As you may remember, me and Molly were very vocal about the prior gate, and so it's been down for the last few months. Thank you for that, and that's been much better. I think the proposal is less drastic than we anticipated. So from that perspective, I think it's better. I will say 2 things. 1, I agree with Molly that the use of DOT to represent that the community has been polled or that the meeting in October was valid is not really true. You know, we even here, we're getting a minute to talk and it's not really fair. In the meeting in December and January, what the community board agreed was that there was going to be a study by DOT about why this block and the impacts of this block. And so I would have thought before you came here, you would have been able to reference your studies and, you know, and the traffic impact to what you're doing. And the last thing I'll say is, I'm glad we're at least having this forum, because what I heard was that Transportation Alternatives just trying to push this through without having this meeting and community input. And, you know, we really need to democratize this process and make sure that people do have an opportunity to talk more than a minute, and there could be a back and forth dialogue. So I think we should have more discussions about pros and cons before we just start, you know, painting streets and closing parking.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Next.
Next online, everyone else is online. Those are the 3 who are here in person that spoke. Thank you.
Okay, Michael Harachi is next.
Hey, I just wanted to thank Karen and Colleen for all that you do. I know that the DOT is far from perfect. I would love to see this project scaled up and have the whole city, every street look like this before I die. I think that know who we are supposed to not listen to, right? And these are car for brains, folks that move with their portable living rooms in metal cages. That is a billion-dollar industry financed by the public for their private, for all you do, Karen. I really appreciate your work. Keep it moving.
Thanks, Mike.
You're not talking anymore.
Pamela,
People talking. It's fine.
Good evening, everyone. This is impressive. First off, I will say that Jeff Preston, there's much in what he says. I represent the Chelsea West 200 Block Association. That is our official title, and we are officially a block association. We cover from 19th to 22nd Streets, from 7th to 8th Avenues, and have done for decades. I believe that this presentation is being made because of our insistence that the process that was promised to us as an open process with great transparency was lacking, and we really needed to have this hearing. Thank you very much to the Transportation Committee for doing this for us. I had some just little comments to make, but I think there are things that can be dealt with easily. I understand 12 parking spots
Thanks, Pam.
are to be lost.
Yeah, I know the time is short, but we appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. I had technical stuff. That's okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Joseph?
Thank you very much. I'd like to echo the comments that Jeff Preston made and Pamela referred to, that the process has not been what was envisioned, which was a study of the impact on the neighborhood as a whole of reducing traffic and calming traffic on this particular block, which is a through street, and the impact on other blocks. I live one block west of this. And so I don't think it's fair to say that this has been some straight line. This is a jumping through past what was planned. And the revisioning workshop was also not a discussion of, is this the right block? All those comments were disallowed. That was the only thing that was allowed to be discussed was, what can we do to this block? With respect to the proposal itself, the one comment I'd make is, I noticed that one of the narrowings is right by the entrance to the garage. And I just want to make sure you've thought through whether you really can get out of that garage without having to go, shimmying out, when you narrow the distance between the cars from about 15 feet to about 10. In one of the drawings, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look like it's doable.
Thanks for the comment, Phil.
Parag is next.
Hey, everybody. Barack Friedman. I'll be quick. Thank you, Karen Patterson. It was a great job, great presentation. And listen, I get it. People want to preserve their free car storage. I get that. It's free. But look, just looking at CB4, 85% of people in CB4 don't have a vehicle. Only 4% of commuters in CB4 drive to work alone. So it's a small minority. So I really support the DOT plan. It's fair. It's a very minor plan. I support the more greenery. I support the planners. And I just, Kirsten, if you want, I don't know if you want to comment on daylighting, because I noticed you take into account daylighting. So I thought that was nice too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Samir?
Hi, yes, thank you. I'll go quickly. Feel free to tell me when I'm over time. Generally, I'm very favorable, especially with the changes at the intersections that shorten the crossing distances. It's going to make it a lot safer, especially with the daylighting and all those other changes. I'm personally a little bit worried about the width of the bulb outs in the middle. I think the narrower the better, because cars do slow down when they're worried that the cars are going to get scratched. So the narrower the better. Anything over 10 feet, I think, would be a mistake. I personally wish the plan was more aggressive with chicanes or something like that, but I understand that there's a trade-off between keeping as much parking as possible and keeping people safe. I just want to be clear, from my perspective, this is about safety for every resident versus parking spots for a few residents. Lives are more important than free parking. It's just as simple as that. And I would encourage the CB to really take that into account and consider that, lives are at stake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Daniel?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So I actually live on West 22nd Street at 260, which is across the street pretty much from the movie theater. So if you look at the notch, and I think just looking at the plan, this is the first I've basically seen of it. I've heard of these other meetings, but never heard any of the things. I mostly agree with the people who are criticizing the plan in terms of choking off the street a little bit too much. I would say eliminate maybe 2 of the narrowings and just have 1 in the center of the block. The ends of the block I can understand. The 5-mile-per-hour speed limit in New York City, we don't really need traffic running very fast on our block, but people do have a lot of deliveries. And certainly when I've seen, without the construction, since I've lived here long enough, the number of vehicles that do deliveries here is huge. And basically, once you have 3 of those plus the narrowing of those
Thanks, Daniel.
streets, that's a problem.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Who's next?
Tom is next. Tom Lunky.
Can you see me? Oh,
Can't see you, but can hear you. There you are. Hi, Tom.
thank you. Thank you, DOT and CB4 for addressing our pedestrian concerns. We're on one of the quietest blocks in the neighborhood, irrespective of some construction that occurs periodically. 90% of residents do not own cars. Let's not relitigate this years-long planning and approval process. I'm a 31-year resident of this block. I wrote a 114-page report that outlines all the opinions heard at the workshop. We need to reduce vehicular usage and expand pedestrian space. I'm a senior aging in place. Delivery workers use carts on the street and they prefer less cars on the street. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lori?
Lori, you need to go off mute.
Lori?
Okay, I got it. I have a car. I use it to get out of the city. When I'm in the city, it is parked on the street because I cannot afford a garage. I just don't think that you should be taking away any more parking spaces. And the street is not used by pedestrians. It is used by cars. The pedestrians walk on the sidewalk and there's plenty of room on the sidewalk. I walk when I'm in the city. I walk all over the city and I never have a problem walking on West 22nd Street or most other streets. It's not crowded. It's not used a lot. And I just don't get it. I think the ideas at the end of the streets are fine. I have no problem with that. I also question whether you've considered street cleaning, snow plowing, and the like, getting through all that stuff. And one on the drawings, it shows leaves on the near the curb. How does a street cleaner get those? They can't get the leaves of the curb.
Thank you so much.
Seconded.
Yes, seconded. All was fantastic. Thank you.
Who's next online?
I'm sorry if I mispronounce it. Isaiah Conlon?
Hey, sorry, my dog was barking. So I'm a resident of 261 West 22nd Street. I was one of the ones that did sign the petition. And so that person that had the petition, I'm happy to provide my address to them. What I don't understand is I find this very random that 22nd Street was picked. There is no data and analysis, right? We have 2 previous streets that we've done in New York City, and I think it was Brooklyn, that I don't know enough about those streets, but why 22nd Street? To me, this seems like it's a neighborhood push to get this done. I'd love to see a little bit more data and analysis on why 22nd Street was picked. It's a very, very busy place. And I'm very, very concerned with the loitering that is going to continue to occur once we have benches or whatever the gravel kind of was. It's a busy enough street to have more people loitering there and sitting there and having a hangout. There are people that live on the first floor. I have a very good friend that lives on the first floor. We've had people sitting there shooting up. We've had to call the police. Why do we want to continue having more people loitering on the street? That's what I don't understand. So I'm very, very against this proposal. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Paul is next.
Next.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead, Paul.
Thanks. I live on the block. I really appreciate all the efforts going into making this pedestrian friendly. I appreciated the previous incarnation of this. I understood the concerns about the gates. They were frustrating for a lot of people. I think there are benefits and there are pros and cons to it. I really like this proposal. I understand the concerns as well. One question I have is also about street sweeping. One of the main sources of noise on the block, aside from construction and people yelling, is when the car alternate side of the street parking takes place and cars do that crazy ballet of honking and moving. I see that a street sweeper could probably go through the narrow spaces, but what happens when the cars are trying to get out of their spots and then move back into them? That seems like a major concern that could cause a lot of noise in the block. I don't own a car. I've rented one sometimes. I found parking to be more available thanks to this, the previous proposal, because the street wasn't used by people from outside the neighborhood. It was used more by people from the block. So I appreciate a lot of that. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Melody?
Hi, I want to thank DOT for this really well thought out proposal. I've lived on West 22nd Street for 40 years. And it has been incredibly noisy, and the noises come from cars. It still comes from cars who are honking behind street sweepers, alternate side, and behind deliveries. Also, a lot of these deliveries are people who are just driving through 22nd Street. They're not driving to deliver on the street. And anything we can do to discourage that, I think, is a good idea. In the survey that was done and also the workshop, people universally wanted more greenery. Well, where is that going to go? It's going to go in taking out some parking and giving us some greenery on the street. When we got those planters, people were overjoyed, and they still are, and we can have more of them now. So that is really great. I'd like to point out that Jeff Preston does not live between 7th and 8th Avenue. He's on the 400 block. And what else? It's just really, it's really lovely. 90% of people in Chelsea don't drive, and we need more of this. We need it really all over the city. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dylan?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
I just like to start off by thanking DOT for the presentation and the community board for having this dialogue. I do not live in the neighborhood, but I work and walk around in the neighborhood, so it's important for it to be safe and enjoyable. Like some other people have said before, I would want something more aggressive in calming, but I understand there are lots of compromises being made here. And I do really like what DOT is proposing for the street. The street is used by pedestrians, and most notably, it's used by pedestrians at intersections where they have to cross. And so the work that went into kind of daylighting and just providing more safe space there is really important, and I really appreciate the effort there. The last other note I want to add is there's a lot of discussing of parking. That this actually increases the amount of parking. It decreases by a factor of 12 the number of car spots, but there are other people who park in the neighborhood, namely on bikes, and I noticed there was a city bike station. And so if there is bike parking, then that allows more people on a very small chunk of the street to park bikes there. Though it does take away specifically the bike parking 1 or 2 spots, that will lead to an increase in parking.
Thanks, Dylan.
Thank you.
Jeffrey?
Thank you.
You're on mute.
Jeffrey, you're on mute.
Hi, thank you for having this. I live on the 2nd floor on 22nd Street. I've been there 20 years. It was a blessing to have the block cut off during the summer. The number of people who came out and went out of their way to go back to the end of the street and put the gate in the way so that they could go out and walk around was quite a few. So I appreciate that. when people talk about 22nd Street, the through traffic on 22nd Street before that happened was noisy and honked on the second floor. It's terrible. So I'm really very much in support of what you're doing. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeff.
And Bridget. Bridget is next.
Bridget, can you unmute? Okay. Is there anyone else, Janine?
There's another Jeffrey Rowe, but they're not coming over.
Oh, here. It looks like Bridget just unmuted. Bridget?
Yeah. Can you hear me? I'm not
Yes.
Bridget, her husband. I'm her husband.
Okay.
And we went to the first meeting on this one. It was totally irresponsible because it was hijacked. On the street here, what you really want to do, put a sign up, no true tracks through, because that seems to be the biggest problem. The big commercial tracks go through here, through the street, because it's so hard to get onto 23rd Street, and put a bump in, put a bump in the road so you don't go fast. That's all you need to do, and the neighborhood will be so much better.
Can you repeat what you said?
Yeah, right. None of us really heard that, so we'll let you. Can you just say it again, maybe a little more clearly?
Oh God, Winfred, this is. Please don't do this.
Sir?
Yes.
You want to try what more
speed bumps? Is that,
speed
can
bumps?
you confirm that what you want in the speed bumps?
Speed bumps, is that what you said?
I heard no through.
I didn't hear you.
Speed bump.
Yeah.
All right, we got no through street sign and speed bump.
Okay.
Okay, I think I heard speeding over streets. Okay. Great, thank you very much, sir.
Deputies.
All right. Anybody else? That's it?
Anyone else?
There's Hervé Fouliade, but he's not coming over.
Okay,
Let me see.
well then, that. Hold on.
There's some.
Oh, there we go. Herb. Go ahead, Herb.
You have to unmute.
Aha, now you can hear. Okay.
All right.
Good evening. This is just a wonderful DOT-sponsored event. I'm happy to be here. I'm not Hervé Foulard. I'm his husband, Jonathan Gold, and I've been living on 22nd Street between 7th and 8th for more than 30 years. I think it's one of the most beautiful streets in Chelsea, and I'm so grateful to live on it. I think it's an amazing plan. However, I would say this, that I can't imagine that you would take away spots from people that I see every morning, or rather 2 days a week when I go to get my coffee, that are sitting in their cars. And I'm mindful of the fact that they can't afford a parking spot that I can afford because I park on the garage in the street. And I think taking away their spots is really an unconscionable thing. And the other point that's been brought up is that we do have a problem with vagrants on the street. I've seen people shooting up. We've had a quality of life issue here in New York. And clearly, this beautiful plan of yours is going to invite intense loitering on this street. And I feel
Thank you very much.
would
Thank you.
hurt the quality of the street.
Great, thank you, point noted. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good night.
They were the last ones.
Thank you. Okay, so what we're going to do now is regroup with the committee and have a discussion about what we've heard.
Are there questions that we wanted asked?
Yeah, hold on, yes.
My procedural question is, number one, how do I first, can I get a copy of the proposal at DOT? Is that publicly available?
Yes.
Yes.
And second of all, how do I submit to the record a follow-on petition? Because I intend to, now that we've heard
Yeah.
the proposal
You
detail.
send it to, you send it to Community Board 4 if you go online.
Okay.
There is a, who to contact, and you can send it to that.
Is that formal enough? Because
Yeah.
I'd like it submitted to the record for any
Yes.
additional hearing products.
Yes,
Thank you.
it is going to be now.
I just wanted to know my email is on the agenda, is on the agenda, so you can send it to me.
Oh, yeah.
I already have sent it to Janine. She got my. 50.
That's it. That's it. That's the person.
Great.
That's the official person.
Excellent. Thank
So
you.
do we have any other question of the DOT before we have a discussion? No, yeah, we are.
I have a question. A lot of people express concerns about loitering. I'm curious. I know the granite blocks are part of your toolkit. We see them all over the city. Is there a history of issues with illegal drug use or have we had people complain about the granite blocks once they've been installed in other areas of the city?
I am not aware of any specific complaints about loitering in granite blocks.
I mean, they're not really hospitable, you don't lay down on them, you can sit on them. So.
Yeah, and
it's Colleen, the granite blocks are not that comfortable in terms of lounging and seating, getting, cozy. We really haven't had complaints about them, with people sitting on them for long periods of time, hanging out.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and sorry, just to add to that, we can also, depending on what is in our store of granite blocks, we are able to a degree select smaller or larger ones. So that is something that can be considered.
Okay. Great. All right. So, Vera.
Part of my question is actually in the last meeting, we discussed potentially for DOT to kind of carry out the whole study as to what kind of impact this kind of a change would make, both in the district. And the second part we had discussed was some kind of a comprehensive plan moving forward, not only in this district, but across the city. So is there any kind of a blueprint or any thinking that DOT might have done? Because many of these questions people are asking are very valid. I mean, you're doing it for the community, you're doing it for people. Is there a plan, or is DOT randomly picking and choosing places they want to do something? And that's the perception we can't have, because we all mean well, we all want to do something that is right. Definitely the city is more pedestrian than car oriented, and that's the fact. And yes, there is noise, and that's New York City. I mean, there's so many things to talk about, and we live in New York City, and that actually describes the city the way it is. At the same time, when we make a significant change, what is it going to do? Not for parking, not for anything else, but the through traffic, but how we go across, etc., etc.
Let me just amplify on that, Karen. So have you done pre and post studies for the other streets?
For Sharon Street, we did look at impacts. I worked on that project. For 103rd Street, I can't speak specifically.
And so what was the result of the first one?
We actually, so with Sharon Street, there were a lot of safety concerns. So it was looking at crash statistics, speeding, etc. And we actually implemented a stop sign and made other traffic controls at that location too.
But that was my question was, and Vera's question was, have you done a little study for any of those streets to say, that was the traffic before and that's the traffic after?
Yeah, it's been a minimal impact. So
okay, how did you come to that conclusion?
Through observational traffic counts. I did not start on this project, so I'm happy to speak to go back to my team and ask about the specifics of the traffic study and traffic counts for
this one and this one or any other which has already been implemented, which would give an example of what happened, right? Okay, so that's the question.
Yeah, the question is very valid, and I think again, I'm saying, we all in this room mean to do something right. At the same time, we don't end up sending a message out that this community board is looking at a particular block, a particular section, and not doing sort of all required kind of studies. So
Okay.
for this particular block, do you have any answer? Have you done?
She's
any-
going to give it to you.
Not for this particular.
This
Yeah.
particular block?
Yeah, she's going to go back. Is that what you say, Karen?
Yes, yes, I need to go back because because I didn't.
West 22nd.
That's just what I said.
Yeah,
Oh.
so for West 22nd Street, because I did not start out project managing this project and came to this project late, I need to speak to the others on the team who were involved in the early stages.
Okay.
So that's something that I can bring back to the committee.
Okay.
That would be very helpful. The other thing I would say that yes, there might be 1, 2, and 3 streets recently that you may have looked at for shared streets, but there are other examples in New York City. Downtown Manhattan actually has many shared streets for a very, very long time, 30 plus years. And Brooklyn downtown also has shared streets. And those are some very good examples to look at, especially when I mentioned materiality. Because I think, maybe it's a longer term, but I think those are good examples to look at so that we do what we do in the right way. Maybe it is incremental, maybe we don't do all of it in one go, but it's good to have those examples in front of your eyes. That was just a suggestion.
So,
I just have a question for DOT, and then I think, we should speak amongst ourselves.
Yes.
Oh, one more question, sorry. Which is just to say, does DOT have an opinion or thoughts about what, some people suggested somewhat of a compromise position where one of the narrowings is removed in the middle, which would, I suppose, free up some more parking. Does the DOT have a position or thoughts about how much traffic would still be slowed just with narrowings at the ends of the street?
By removing the mid-block traffic calming, that would significantly lower the objective to calm traffic. I can speak with our traffic engineers and see, how like the removal, or if going from 6 hugs or 3 locations to 2, or 3 locations to 2, what that impact would be. But it's important, especially on the long span of a block like 22nd, to have intermediate features.
Got it. And
I just want to make sure I'm not missing something. We keep referring to this as shared street, but all I'm really seeing are traffic calming.
Yes.
And not shared about it.
Right.
Yes, thank you. So thank you for that. So yes, this is traffic calming, a shared street. A great example of a shared street that was recently implemented is on Broadway. Broadway from 25th to 32nd Street. As many of you may have already walked over there, is a series of plaza blocks and shared streets. So that's an example where there are cars, bicyclists, pedestrians, and pedestrian space.
So basically, what we're really talking about is trading parking spaces for traffic calming elements on the street. I just want to make sure you don't go on all these other. Okay, I know, so we can stop calling it a shared street.
Yeah,
I think it started as shared streets and then it switched to.
When we were saying we want to study on the effects of the traffic in the neighborhood, it was the assumption that they were going to come to us with a shared street.
Right.
As Brett said, this is a traffic guide. I don't really need, if we're just changing it from 25 to 5 miles an hour and there's no other change in the street, I can't imagine.
And I think, those of us who, do have cars who drive through the streets can also probably assume that we probably don't need a major study to see what the impact on traffic volume is gonna be. When traffic is heavy, cars are going slow anyway, because there's traffic. What this will essentially do is on this block, because it narrows in places, people will likely drive slower, but it doesn't have an impact really significant on volume, I would think. I don't think you need to study this.
Right, you're completely right. The example I was talking about is Broadway Nassau. If we actually go east of Broadway itself, those are shared streets. Cars, people, everything moves on the same surface. The speed is reduced, the material is changed. So no one can drive faster than, like, it's not even 5 miles. It's
Yeah,
much lower than that.
Right.
Yeah, even here, the narrowest it's gonna get is 10 or 11 feet. That's enough weight. A car and a bicycle can actually share that width. We see it all the time.
So let's now round
I
up.
bicycle, I drive. Sure.
Yes.
I would suggest, I would suggest, the middle ones I think should be removed.
The what, the middle ones?
I don't like it by the garage number one. I think we could bring the other two in a little bit, to facilitate the common. I don't see the necessity of 6 bump outs on the street. That's just.
Can we see the mapping, just so we understand?
Yeah, can you show us?
Yeah, yes, I will. Let me,
Especially if you can do something in the front, on 8th Avenue, on a turn to slow things down, as was suggested.
Yeah.
earlier, Raised crosswalk, definitely.
Okay. So that's,
whoops, there we go, full screen.
the mid-block bump outs, there
What's the thing?
are there
Okay.
2 pairs of them or 3 pairs of them?
3 pairs.
Yes, 3.
There's 3, okay. I mean, I, we asked the question, is there, do these have an effect? And she says that, they're, I see that something mid-block being important, maybe not 3. But something mid-block.
Let me, when they are installing, for example, speed bumps, they install them at 200 feet different distance. Because, what happens is that the car goes and then they slow down and then they accelerate again and then they slow down again. So I understand why the 6 is because historically they know that if they are too far apart, then people accelerate in between. And so if you make them pretty close, they don't accelerate. So that's probably one of the reasons why they are doing it this way.
I have a question. Over at the corner of the bakery, had bike parking. Is that where the loading zone is now?
Yes.
So that's being removed?
Yes.
So there will be no loading zone on that street anymore?
That's right.
No loading zone.
That's a problem.
Could be an issue.
Yeah.
Well, I would, that's my point is that if we were going to remove one, propose to remove one of the bump out, I would replace it with the neighborhood loading zone.
Yeah.
Because, you're not going to have any loading zone anymore, and people honking is when they are behind the truck, and therefore.
But Christina, I wouldn't put the loading zone next to the garage entrance.
You would?
I would not.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
So I mean, and I think how many of these bump outs I think are, it's a good question because I think, they will help with the traffic calming without having to put the speed bumps because people, you talk about noise, the speed bumps cause noise. I would also, I'm hearing the concern about people sitting on the granite blocks and, that bike parking, I think would actually be better served on the mid-block areas because we're talking about all the deliveries that come. So if we are gonna put the bike parking on these bump ups, I'd rather see a couple in the middle blocks of people doing deliveries, have a place to put the bicycle not on the sidewalk. So that would actually, and so the granite blocks are you need something at the neck downs at the intersections. Because otherwise, if you just paint it and you just put those plastic things on there, the cars don't really respect those and they're not effective at slowing traffic down significantly. But when someone sees a big granite block, and maybe the bike racks would do the same, job. So instead of granite block, you just put more of those bike racks on there. If that's really the concern, but you need something that cars are going to be afraid to hit to slow them down in that turn. And the next one doesn't even have to be too long. It just has to be wide. It just has, you just need the neck down to slow the cars when they're turning.
Brad, can you clarify, when you say bike rack, you don't mean city bikes, you mean.
No,
regular
bike
parking.
a couple of bike rings or something.
That makes sense.
That would be temporary mid-block, we don't, I think the whole business are not gonna be used as delivery permanent parking. I just saw some of those newly installed sidewalk extensions on 8th Avenue. Those would become parking lots for mini motorcycles. which is not good, but that's,
That's life.
yeah, but that, so I don't think we want to see that here, but if you have just a couple of bike rings at these bump outs, so now it's a plus with the bike rack, and if there is an opportunity to come back to block associations, it sounds like there really wasn't an outreach to the block association. It would be good to hear a little more direct feedback. Maybe there is a benefit to having a bench. I don't know what the community on the block is, that if people.
But then we
we
have
had-
the blocks are for the people.
But yeah, so,
I don't think they want to, I don't think I'm hearing anybody.
So, yeah, but if there was something, it's, if we hasn't gone to block association, that's a shame.
The only thing I would say that don't lose that loading zone.
Well, like I'm saying, this is what I'm hearing. We're not there yet, but this is what I'm hearing. So remove 102. Well, saying 102, and 102 is 1 and 1, right? 1 and 2. Install a neighborhood loading zone instead of. On another one, install bike corrals on 102 instead of the corner. And bring back some data, although I agree that when you do traffic calming, we don't do a data analysis. So this is not necessarily, we know if the volume wants to go through, they can, but there's nothing telling them don't go through, right? So that's, I think that addresses some.
You're right. I think for the community and the folks who live on the block, this is actually not a significant physical change.
Right.
It's a change in terms of common traffic.
Right. Wait, yes, one person at a time.
It's basically calming traffic, not changing any materials.
I was born on this block, and one thing we don't have are accidents, okay? We have not seen a lot of accidents, and I want to actually go to the city portal and get the data to see how many accidents. The whole idea of traffic calming, like all this calming that's allegedly going on is a euphemism for choking traffic elsewhere.
Yes. I don't get off.
All right, so I think we got it.
So it is a question that I have, only being that the history of this started as a shared street, which was, we were talking about having it closed to traffic, which faced a lot of resistance, but also had a lot of support. And we as a group decided, you know what, we want to see studies up before we move that way, because we have no idea how that would impact surrounding traffic and what that does to the streets on the side. So I understand that. I don't think the purpose of that program was ever about calming traffic, meaning I don't know if this is a street that has ever been is particularly vulnerable to people racing by and racing through. Maybe it is. And so I guess that doesn't necessarily mean that this isn't a good idea or not a good idea, but I am curious to the DOT, and maybe another question I have is, for the other streets that you have implemented this on, was the reason for it because there were problems with traffic racing through? Is that why, or because people just like to feel like the cars on the streets are going slower and it is safer? Is it a general safety thing? Or is it and potentially block beautification thing? I think it looks nice. Or is it because those streets were particularly vulnerable to cars racing by?
Thanks for bringing that up.
So do we have, hold on.
Yeah, that was to the DOT, thanks.
If I could respond. So to your question, it is general pedestrian safety, and we want to encourage cars to drive slower and be mindful when there are people crossing mid-block, crossing at corners with their children, elderly. So there are a lot of pedestrians in this area in general. It's Chelsea, it's Manhattan, and this is a tool to help slow traffic and also support pedestrians and cyclists and deliveristas. So our streets there's a lot of activity on our streets, and this is
I think it was also, if I recall, the the workshop was more also of space for pedestrians. Because the sidewalks are extremely narrow there. They were narrowed a long time ago, and they were never restored to a little wider. I'm sorry, I'm not asking. So, that was one of the discussions that came up last time.
Yeah, next one, I live around the block. I live on the 20th Street. If you even look at a narrow sidewalk, walk there and you will run.
Okay, but that's
2 feet.
Right.
The 22nd Street has pretty decent sidewalks, actually, compared to many blocks. This is just a statement of fact. Traffic calming is always helpful, and that hopefully it will increase the pedestrian sort of, walking more often than not. But I think this project is not something that I'm terribly alarmed by, because it's not making a significant physical change.
Right.
I'm also concerned equally that we asked for the impact study, someday, even if it is not database, if it is based on observations, it would be very important to have that kind of an approach, because you're dealing with communities that live and on either side.
I think this is one of the items I was talking about, putting the data requests in our letter. So that's where I'm. That's why I'm hearing the group coalescing toward. Is that fair? So.
Wait, can you say it again?
Right, yeah.
The whole thing?
So we talked about removing 1 or 2 1 or 2 bumps. We had something about moving the bump away from the parking, moving away from the garage. Away from the garage. We have installing corral on some of those bumps. We have installing a neighborhood loading zone, which would be instead of one of those bumps, my bike parking, and getting us some data anyway that we had asked last time, right? Or some sort of data, even though we are not totally concerned about it.
Are you also hearing to abandon this completely and leave our block alone?
No, I'm talking about our community, not everybody else.
You live there, and what
I
I'm
know,
hearing
we
is
are.
you're saying we're doing this change and that change, but you're not saying that.
No, we are not
want this
saying that.
abandoned completely.
No, we are not saying that.
Thank you all. I appreciate your service to the community, but we'll be back and we're going to fight this. We do not want any of this. Thank you, everyone there, and particularly.
We heard you. Thank you.
Good night.
So that's what I'm, that's what I'm hearing.
CB4, if I could comment on one of the requests. So the hugs that are mid-block are not wide enough or long enough to accommodate bike parking. Bike parking that we have at the corners needs 45 feet. So that's why we don't have that. That would be additional space taken.
Could you do one ring though? I mean, you're saying
bike ring.
just like one ring,
Just bike.
and not a sled, but just.
Okay, not a corral, just a ring.
It doesn't have to be on the street bag, you can actually keep it closer to the sidewalk.
I actually invite you to come to our block and see, instead of just discussing it, you haven't even been here.
Thank you.
Insult me.
So we're talking about maybe putting a ring, and anyway, we're giving you suggestion, these are suggestions, obviously you have to look whether it works with the whole thing or not, right? Is that fair?
Yeah, no.
Do you have anybody
A bike ring.
has a problem with anything we said? No.
The only question I have, Christine, is that, will they actually give us some sort of revised version of this before any implementation? We understand where we're going with that.
Well, at least we'll have a letter saying, look, we do this or not, right?
I mean, the only thing I would say, just present the other side of the window here, is that I find it frustrating that we don't have daylighting on every single block in Chelsea. I mean, I think even some of the members of the community who were upset about the loss of parking and were not in favor of the proposal mentioned that they did like what was done at the avenues at 8 and 7. And I would just love for DOT to put, there's actually a New York state law requiring daylighting at every intersection.
That's not.
And New York City wants to do it. Right.
I know, we've seen the envelope.
So what I'm saying is I'm a little disappointed that we're even having to litigate this minor, these details.
But okay, so do we have a motion?
Yeah, I think so moved.
Right, so move.
Second.
All in favor? You good?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so well, again, it's going to be, well,
Sure,
we
but-
look at the video, but the.
Are we,
So you heard, those negative opinions, not a single person is against it, not one of you voted against, it's possible, everyone, 15 people voted against it today in this.
No, I can just, I can tell you,
Here.
I can tell you that I've counted the people, and we had 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 3, 6, 9. We had 9 and 9 speaking.
Okay,
9 in favor and 9
and then
against.
100% in favor.
Well, I mean,
Find out that's what that-
I'm sorry,
Just like how Colleen said,
Sir.
our chance to speak was today, and it's largely ignored.
no, let me-
Exactly
it's
what's
not
happening.
largely ignored. We made a bunch of changes to reflect the concern that you have expressed. You have expressed concern, and we have tried to modify the proposal to take that into account. Taking into account, so this is, we have moved away, there are probably right now people on the screen which are saying, why are they doing that? This was perfect as it was. So we are moving to somewhere in the middle, which is not pleasing anyone, and which is the way it goes. And, you know,
That's fair.
that's the way we do it. That's the way we do it.
When DOT comes with a plan and has no backing for any of your statements with, oh, I'm just new. I don't
Okay. I understand what you're saying, but we are, you know what?
No.
We're doing our best. We're doing our best, and we understand.
We were told today was our only chance to speak about it.
So we have another 3 items.
I know. I'm aware.
Yes. Okay.
Colleen was called by legal people said today is our chance to speak.
You've been represented.
So I think there's every for the youth.
We are.
I think they're gonna get muted, or they would.
Okay,
I know it.
all right. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you for coming.
I'll be
Thank you
back.
for expressing, and you made the
Thank you. Have a
difference.
nice-
Made a difference.
I hope it's.
We are 90 minutes into the meeting talking
Right.
about the street. I think we've given some time to it.
No, we've spent how many hours on, we probably spent over 8, 9, 10 hours on this entirely. This is. Does anyone oppose my vote? All right.
So Karen, we send a letter, and we hope that you will give us in writing some feedback on what's accepted or not, and what you're going to do with it.
And
Right.
Christine, I just
Okay.
want to keep clarifying one thing, you know, some observational data or whatever
We
has.
said that.
Exactly.
We said that.
Make it important,
Fine.
because that's why this noise is
Yeah.
coming from.
Karen, I
I'm
said-
gonna repeat that, because I asked for it 3
I
times
know.
last time, so I'm gonna keep asking this.
Okay, I know. I just, I heard you.
Because people make noise.
You know that I love data. I mean.
I know.
I live all the time.
I live like next.
Okay. All right, let's try to move on to the next.
Thank you,
Yeah.
DOT.
Thank you. We like you very much.
Jesse, did everybody vote in favor? Just for my notes?
Yeah,
Yeah, everyone voted in favor, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
okay.
Thank
So-
you. Am I? Sorry.
DSNY, so DSNY has proposed a rule, which is, if you read the document, it says that they want every food business, restaurants and etc., to put their food scraps, I mean, etc., in not recycled, in containers. They want that to be in containers the whole night. So even, you know, there was the rule, which is after 8 o'clock, you can leave it in bags. Now they are saying these things should be the whole night, which is wonderful, right? However, the rule also says that the restaurant who do not have enough space in their inside area, would be able to keep all the containers outside for the whole day. Means that along the walls, we're going to have containers, small and big. They are not going to be attached. You're going to have people throwing stuff into it the whole day. And then they are going to move into the sidewalk and will call sanitation, and they won't do anything about it. And so what I wanted us to do, I mean, I would suggest that we send a letter to sanitation saying, you know, people today, they have their stuff inside and they have the space. So why do that? That's going to be a major taking of space and possibly not very pleasant because, you know, we're going to have. And I have taken, since then, I've taken pictures of, you know, containers in the middle of the day and there are stuff in there, people stop and they put stuff in there and it's disgusting. And it's going to be, I mean, you know, and then we are losing another 3 to 5 feet of sidewalk.
That's what I'm going to ask you, like, did they asking for sidewalk or they asking
Yeah,
for?
sidewalk. Sidewalk.
Actually, in addition to the fact that some of these side sheds are more than the front.
Yeah, well, that's
frontal, which is
in addition to all of
addition to
that.
that, so they're getting a lot more.
So my recommendation, yes.
I'm sorry. Well, because I'm looking at that notice.
At the end, there is the text.
Yeah, is there a benefit? I mean, what is the city saying?
Well, the
What is
benefit,
the benefit for the city?
no, the benefit is the racks, you know, having the thing unclosed during the whole night. But the exchange of that is, oh, okay, those poor restaurants who are going to give them even more sidewalk. And they will be containers.
Sorry, I am missing something though. Wait, if it weren't for the containers, where would the trash get within the trash? The trash not get, it would be inside, not on the street anyway. Okay.
During the whole day, if you see between 4 o'clock in the morning and the put out time, which is 11 o'clock at night, right?
Okay.
All that stuff is kept inside, supposed to be
Yeah.
kept inside the restaurant. Just because you tell them to put it in a container doesn't make.
And they're still going to use bags, they're just gonna put the bags in the containers,
Yeah.
so they bring the
Yeah.
container out.
I have one question.
Yeah.
You know how we always discuss that there has to be 8 feet?
Yes.
Does the proposal include the rule?
No.
No.
No,
Then they're violating their own.
I know, they are violating the whole slew of things. So I think we need to have a very quick letter which says, you know, unless it's 8 feet, unless we need to know the size of those containers, because if the guys order a 5 feet container, now it's going to take half of their sidewalk.
Can we make a, not an exception, can we make a request? It doesn't have to be on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
And put it wherever we want.
right.
Not on the sidewalk, parking lane.
This is
planning
where it
lane,
is,
what-
well, and they don't say parking lane, which they could.
That's not too bad. Wait, what?
Right.
No, I'm just pushing the problem.
I see what you're saying.
That's what I'm
You're being
saying.
facetious,
So-
but pointing out the problem.
So the problem is that, you know, not on the sidewalk because it's unmanageable, because it's disgusting. And I don't think this is a hardship because they already put their garbage somewhere. In fact, there is a rule saying your garbage has to be in containers inside your building, inside your restaurant right now.
Great.
So,
What about the emergency vehicles?
well,
That's another issue.
all of it. And then when they have a sidewalk cafe, are they going to put it in front of the sidewalk cafe? No, I can see it. So that would be the
So
essence.
we support the containers, we're
But we
supporting
don't-
the war on mats, but not.
We not support on the sidewalk.
Exactly,
That's it.
but on the sidewalk at night perhaps, and even better with road bed, but you know, at 11 PM, the beds can come out the sidewalk, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
they put their stuff outside at 11 p.m. Yeah,
Yeah.
but not during the day.
Not during the day.
But on the other hand, we are actually trying to push the garbage away from the side.
They can already do that as long as whatever's in the sidewalk is clear before it's open. Which is also a problem because some of these restaurants don't open until 11 o'clock,
Yeah,
but that's a different issue. We
Right.
should be, I don't know, if this is an opportunity.
you want to
ask-
say that the put out should be, well, the put
They
out
should-
is
they-
supposed to be 1 hour before the close.
Right, but they don't, they're not required to clear off the sidewalk, I think, until
Next
they open-
one.
until they open.
Yes,
And
that's the
it should, but I think there should be a cap on what time it is, in case it's a lunch play, a lunch.
Oh.
And they don't open until 11, some restaurants don't open until 11 o'clock.
Or 5 PM. Something.
Right.
So I think there probably should be like a 7 a.m. cutoff or something.
Okay.
They're required to come.
Christine,
Yes.
I did a study some time back for 125th Street CBD, and one of the proposals was to actually provide containers.
Yeah.
Only for putting this food and clothes, so
Yes.
the rats can get to it. They used it for a number of years, and now it's gone totally, but that was pretty effective because.
So, you know, we can't, I mean, and I agree, I can speak about sanitation containers for the rest of my life. But I think the only thing we're doing here in transportation, and I think ACES should take on these other issues, but for transportation, we're saying, don't take more of our sidewalk, we can't, this is not right. So that's it, that's the motion. I'm not supposed to make a
I
motion.
make the motion.
Okay, all right.
Second.
Okay, so we have a vote, Janine needs to hear what's going on. So, all in favor?
All in favor?
Yes. Opposed? Present non-eligible? Good.
All in favor.
Okay, can I go back to 22nd Street for a second? No, can we do something about a community evaluation at a certain point from the time that, if it goes through, something like that?
What do you want?
A year later or
First, we
something?
want to see.
What do
the
you mean,
study, and then we
community?
talk about it. First, we want to see what they come back with, and then we ask.
Well, I mean, part of the letter.
Yeah.
If we're
Yes.
doing a letter.
You're saying the DOT do a community?
No, yeah, do a community evaluation of the program.
Who
Who does what?
I don't understand.
Is that DOT making an
Is that us?
evaluation? Is it us?
Us, or somehow, or the DOT
We
should.
can have the same issue. Us it's going to be half of the people on the block have a car and they're going to say it's horrible. And the other half love to walk and they are going to say it's wonderful. You know what's,
People might think it's a wonderful thing, even who own cars.
Then we ask DOT to do that.
Yeah. Right, they should evaluate.
okay, there is a new motion on the table. Who is there a second?
Yeah, you mean this letter?
No. Going back to that, do we have a second for this motion or not? Okay, no motion, no.
That's a good idea.
Keep moving.
You're just kidding now.
All right. No, let's
Keep motioning
There's-
along.
right.
There's a
Let's
hand
talk
up.
about-
I'm sorry, there's a hand up from Michael. I think it's about the DSNY item. Let me move.
What?
There's a hand.
A member of the public for the DSNY item, is that correct?
Yep.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Really?
All right, Michael,
Yeah.
your time to shine.
Right.
Michael, you're back. We know Michael. We saw Michael there. Michael, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to thank you all for supporting the movement, and thank you particularly to Christine for being so engaged with the matter. Berthet, how do you pronounce it?
Yeah, birthday.
Berthet 2024. Thank you.
That's my middle name.
All right, thank you, Michael. Thank you for coming in. All right. Moving on.
Okay, so
sorry.
now we're doing.
I see
Yeah.
Samir with his hand up also. Let me see if it's for DSNY.
I doubt it.
What did you say?
We have one more person with their hand up.
Yeah,
Well-
sorry, I just wanted to quickly say that I'm in favor and we should not take up more sidewalk space. If we want to,
Hey!
somewhere should be on the street.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Sammy.
Thank you, Samir. Okay,
Okay, so now we want to open this piece of paper, which is the letter we have all worked on, so,
yeah, everyone's
right?
got it.
I don't know whether I can open that. Yeah. How do we open that? You can see. What's the name of the thing?
MCB4 TPC letter to DOT bike stop sidewalk.
530, right, okay,
And
All right.
it's now sitting at 7
okay,
pages with a.
7 pages, so I hope you have thank you all for all the participation, the contribution, the suggestion. We have put everything in. He's already.
Two more suggestions.
Okay, all right, so I just want to say that we have put
Good letter.
everything in that everybody said, but as a result, there are some things that don't totally work, so we need to talk about those. Let me start. Page.
Just procedurally, I assume we have people in the public to speak on this as well, so are we? Do we want to address this amongst ourselves first? We want to hear from the public? Do we want
Let's hear from the public first.
to?
That's a
Okay,
good
let's
idea, right?
hear from the public first. All right, so if you are want to speak on the subject of bikes on sidewalks, can you raise your hand on Zoom and Janine will move you over.
Very good.
Although it might just be some mere Michael.
Michael again.
Yes, yeah.
Love those guys.
Actually, really, you're on board. All right. Samir, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thank you. It sounds like we're talking about bikes on sidewalks. I will be brief. Riding on the sidewalk is not great. I see it done by bikers all the time, and I will be honest, including myself, I do bike on the sidewalk occasionally. But I think it's important to remember, like, why do people do that? It's because they don't feel safe on the street. It's because we treat sidewalks as two ways, but we treat bike lanes as one way for some reason. I think we really want to solve this problem cohesively. We need to expect that people will bike both ways on every street and make it safe to do so. That's the real only way we're going to get people off the sidewalks altogether. Thank you.
Thanks.
And phone, wait, an honest guy.
Where is?
Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Samir. I think we have to look upstream at the causes of why folks may be sporadically riding on sidewalks. As a pedestrian, as a cyclist, as a driver, I will say that we dedicate our public space to 90% of automobile infrastructure, and we're living in the 20th century. It's about time that we design our streets to accommodate people with disabilities, folks with children, people with luggage, tourists, pedestrians. I think that focusing on lithium-ion batteries, on riding on sidewalks is really missing the point. The point is that we need more infrastructure dedicated to alternative modes of transportation. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. I think I saw one more person.
Dylan.
Hello. Yep. I'm going to be brief because it's mostly the same opinions as others, but I just want to add that there is evidence that when you add protected bike lanes, there's fewer interactions and crashes between pedestrians and cyclists. And so a lot of this is coming from our experience as pedestrians and as occasional cyclists. Because I think almost everyone in New York City spends most time as a pedestrian over anything else. But there is, I believe the DOT has evidence that when you provide more safe spaces for bikers, that leads to beneficial outcomes for pedestrians because they now stay on the road. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Dylan.
Melody.
I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
Have I been mentioned?
Yep.
Okay, I'm just gonna make it very quick. I am on board with more infrastructure for bikes. I do see delivery people on the sidewalk and it really pisses me off, but I also know what they're getting paid and how they need to get from point A to point B. And the only way to do that, these are business people. It's a low scale business, but we all need them. The only way for them to get to point B safely sometimes is to ride on the sidewalk. This isn't good. When they have infrastructure, they use it. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Pam.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I wasn't going to drop into this one, but my experience with people on bikes on the sidewalk, many of them are not people making a living at it, and they are people that if you yell at them hard enough to please either get off their bikes and walk their bike or get back in the street. And there's a bike lane on my block, and very often they are not using it. So I'm unabashed in making those comments to people, and generally I'm listened to. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
That was a good idea.
Yeah, that was good.
So let me take you through the items that I have highlighted that I think have, maybe conflict with each other or question, or somebody raised an issue and I wanted to bring it back to you because, so we, for example, say change the signal timing to give bikes a green wave of 50 miles per hour. And then I got a comment, say, can it be less than that?
Isn't that a green wave? So the signal timing is the lights on the street.
So you can bike and all the lights let you go, but they let you go at
right in the way.
X miles per hour. And that was my impression that 15 miles has been adopted by a number of organizations.
It might be math.
You go ahead.
When I was reading the whole suggestion about a greenway for bicycles, bicyclists go at 8 miles an hour, they go at 25 miles an hour. I don't think there's a set greenway for bicycles. And that's again, kind of even ignoring the part that bicyclists tend to ignore when the green lights are shining anyway.
Right.
So I think I wouldn't screw up the whole math of the traffic flow for the bicycles and the bike lanes, and then we also have now these, the red arrows that are stopping when, so the windows are, I think the math is too complicated.
I was just about to say the same thing, and the second thing I was about to say is that when you ride your bicycle in New York City, you're along the avenues, you can tend to go a little faster. When you're going across the streets, much slower, because it's much, because you have one lane of traffic going through and you have 5 lanes.
But are you saying remove the comment or change the 15? I'm not hearing the right.
If you let me finish, you'll hear it. 15.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say is that to go beyond 15 miles an hour in New York City across the street is much harder. Along the avenue, it's easier. But when you say greenway, are you saying that you're going to continue?
I'm just asking, what do you want to write in the letter?
I think 15 is fine to go faster than 15.
That's all I wanted to know. I was not understanding where you were going, so that's.
No, but you have to understand, because the way traffic moves in New York City moves a little differently between avenues and streets.
I got it. You were.
Yeah, Chris, I would just say on this issue, maybe we could just say we would like green wave signal timing for cyclists. I think DOT knows what that is. I think they've studied what the right speed is, and maybe we're struggling to do what it is. Because I'm reading a Wikipedia article.
Great suggestion.
Amsterdam.
Great suggestion.
Okay.
Not our.
I just want to say the 15 miles per hour, this is what the delivery companies, the Grubhub, etc., have recently proposed.
As a limit.
Right. So that's where that number comes from, right? So this is, okay, so remove the 15 miles. Not the whole sentence, but just remove the 15 number. Okay, we got that. All right, so the next thing was. So we have another statement which say bar all electric bikes without operable pedals from the bike lane.
That's already law.
Is it?
Yes. Oh. I mean, if you look at the link in the document to this graphic, the hodgepodge graphic, it says who can go in the bike lanes, and it's class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes, which all have operable pedals. It's these big moped looking things that do not have pedals that are not already not allowed.
So we need to move that sentence to enforce.
Enforcement, education and enforcement.
Right.
It is enforcement, and then also very often what you see is scooters actually riding. I mean the regulars, not.
You mean the little thing?
Yeah.
So two things, but so what are you saying? It's not permitted?
It's not permitted, but they do that. I don't know how, it's an enforcement issue. I don't mean that, paddle scooters, I'm talking about.
Unicycle? No, it's talking about motorized. Motorized scooters, but Danny.
The problem we have.
Danny.
We almost say,
The ones you say, I'm not talking about the ones you stand on, I'm talking about the ones you sit on.
That's
what
we're being discussed.
Yeah.
No, but they're a hybrid scooter.
Yeah, they're called scooters, they're not called moped.
Sit on that little seat.
Yeah, I mean, there's
They're like motorbikes.
That's part of the problem.
a lot of different.
That's part of the problem. Even if you would tell the cop to enforce something, there is no way they can enforce, because, I mean, they could, but it is so complicated. Okay,
I saw a police officer talking to 2 bicyclists yesterday, like thinking that like something had happened, and I was so close to going, excuse me, can you just tell me what the answer, are you enforcing a bike law here? I didn't.
All right, so we have another yellow item, which is we had that to upgrade the apps. User City Bike app should be required to respond to the 3 safety questions offered in multiple language before they can start any segment of their trip. And the comment was, Well, some of them are going to have to read that thing 50 times a day.
Yeah.
This is too much. So what do you all think?
Take it out.
I think whenever you buy software for your computer, and there's like a terms of use or whatever, you just.
Written this way?
You just. click
So
the
what do you
button.
think? I mean, just, we leave it there and somebody's gonna say it's stupid and. it will
The,
change
the
it?
only value in that, I think, is if someone is in violation of something, so now the law has something to hang their hat on when they're writing a ticket.
Oh,
I see a value in your something, you take your first ride and you sign in for an account, but I think.
the first round of the day,
First ride of every
I
hour.
mean, I ride city bike every day, I don't want to click that thing. every
Yeah.
day.
But it should be, that should already be a term of conditions for use of city bikes in the program period, once you sign up.
Yeah.
So I don't think that
I don't like that.
pushing a button is gonna.
but you know,
do the
the community was big on that in their comments.
No, I think there should, I think that I agree with this, that when you open the app, there's some sort of reminder warning. They have that in foreign countries for when you use
Right.
scooters and e-bikes, you have to click
Okay.
a certain number of.
Every time you, let's say you rent a bike.
Right.
And you stop at a cafe. You park the bike, why should you have to go back and press it again versus when you just rented initially?
I think I'm saying after you take it out of the dock.
After you take it out of the dock,
Right.
every time you take it out of the dock, that should be it. It should
Right.
be every time you take it out of the dock. Yeah,
Right.
Great.
Okay, all right,
That makes sense.
got
But
it,
this is,
yeah.
I see the problem. I think the question though, because this one's about the
The delivery
delivery apps.
people, right.
So it's not just when you take it out of the dock, how often are they being?
And then they
also-
don't have any dogs.
I feel like the community, talking about this issue was more focused on the DoorDash app than was the City Bike app.
Right,
Yeah, sure, right, that's fair.
Right.
But so, I mean, but I still think the city bike app should have something.
but
Every
listen,
time you just look at
it's either the dog or it's
Schools are 6 seconds a day.
oh, it's the first time of the day, the first time of the house open or that, right?
But it is true. How are we addressing it with the delivery
The
app?
first time of the day,
Oh, no, we just,
Right.
that's sorry, I thought you were saying.
that was.
Great, good.
Okay, we're good, and then. So we have two things which are related, we said preferably use automation, but then we said. Use speed camera to enforce the speed limits. And then someone said, I don't remember, requires registration, and above that, we said expand the registration requirement. To any electric vehicles that go faster than 15 miles per hour.
15 or
1.5. What is today the rule? Is it 20 miles?
25 is the international.
In terms of what needs to be licensed, it's the same category, so class 1, 2, and 3 of e-bikes, which class 1 goes up to 20, class 2 goes up to 20, and class 3 goes up to 25 miles an hour.
Right.
Those do not require a license,
Anything more than 25.
but it's over 25, and so the mopeds can go. Well, one class of moped goes 20, one goes 30, and goes 40, it is a lot, but it's the mopeds. To me, the problem that I see in the community is all of these large moped things that are mostly driven by delivery drivers. They do not have license plates, or if they do, they have a bent license plate. And they're riding the bike lane when they're supposed to be in the road better.
Right.
So I mean, that would be. And well, they're not just riding the bike lane, they're riding on the super sidewalk.
But what the community was saying is like, we can't identify the people, so trying to do enforcement without an identification. And you should know that in the rules, in the law, in 2012, they passed the law saying every person need to have a vest with a number on the back, which was a form of identification. And I don't know why we can't ask that it would be reestablished, because it's not very onerous. Put a vest and that's it.
And the challenge is they work for DoorDash. And
I
they
know,
work for
but I
6
mean,
restaurants.
they
They
have-
can at least have DoorDash there.
One of them,
Yeah.
we don't care which one. Who cares which one, right? They need to have one vest with one number. So that would be my, so goes faster than 50 miles an hour, that's what.
My question about 15 is that the
Yeah.
city bikes go 18.
Right, that doesn't work.
And I don't think we want people to have to register,
No.
I mean, they're already.
No.
You have to use the word motorized.
Well, but the
Motorized.
But the e-city bikes are limited at 18, they can't go above 18, and they are quite fast.
They're very fast, yeah.
Why
So why don't we say 20 then?
Well, why don't we just say?
Okay, 18.
Deal.
Yeah.
We got a deal.
Yeah.
Okay, and then that's it. These are the little changes that I thought were not quite aligned.
So we are taking out the speed camera? Or?
No, you're not, we are not. We keep the speed, but we are saying and enforce on based on a registration or an identification above it.
Oh, sorry, before.
Can I say something? You know, I ride my bike all the time. And you can believe it, and I ride along Mexico River, so I can go pretty fast, 18 miles an hour, and I do that like 5 days a week. The point I'm making is I actually got hit by e-bike guys and scooter guys. I'm actually going at 18, and those guys came from the island.
Yeah.
I was okay because nothing happened. What I'm trying to say is that there are people walking all over the place, there are people riding all over the. This really is going to need work because there's so many different types of vehicles coming out.
It's enforcement. I mean, there's no enforcement, and at the end of the day.
So that was actually gonna be my question. Did we, last meeting, and for the production of this letter, did we look at any enforcement statistics in the production of this letter? It was just by coincidence today, I was meeting with a pro bono client in Red Hook and someone else who was in the room who was late to the meeting, was saying that recently she had her bike taken from her by the NYPD for riding on the sidewalk, and it was actually seized. And that surprised me because that was actually enforcement that I did not know was happening. I'm not saying that it needs to affect this letter, but I do think we should plan on having NYPD, we should bring in NYPD and ask them actually what they are doing about enforcement and what I think that they have. I think that should be something to do.
Statistics would help us understand like the degree to which they're doing, like how many tickets. But I think there was a comment about how the number of, I think that was in there, something about how the number of crashes were skeptical, or the number of incidents were skeptical about because they're last week I saw 2 bicyclists hit each other. One was zipping through going west through a red light, the other was going the wrong way down 8th Avenue, not in the bike lanes. I was like, and like, there was no fist fight, they both took a minute to check each other, themselves, and then they just both kind of went on their own way. And,
I think I want to see the stats on the bicyclists because it's online, you can go to the precinct and see all the summons, etc. And the number are very small. I mean, so what there is no conclusion from that. The conclusion is like you look at it, you say, okay, is it the bike number?
Sure, no, that's why I'm saying we should have them in here, because I want to ask, what are their instructions that they getting? Are they getting told that they should be enforced?
Well, publicly, they are not going to tell you that.
I attended the Midtown South Community Council meeting a month or so ago, and someone, not me, brought up bikes and sidewalks and mopeds. And the commanding officer in Midtown South said that the challenge was real estate, that they confiscate some of these vehicles, but they don't have room for them. Which, is interesting, but
she didn't mention her bike was taken to Westchester.
but I mean, I think it's a complicated matter because to me, I think the biggest problem that I see as a daily super sidewalk walker is that these giant mopeds are going by my 5-year-old, but they're driven by people who have just joined our community and walked through a jungle to get here, and I'm sure do not have a driver's license and are probably not going to be able to get a license plate and a driver's license. So I would like for there to be education so that those people don't invest money in these expensive, dangerous, not, safe or not allowed in bike lane vehicles. And maybe if we could be pushing them towards the more traditional e-bikes that delivery drivers have had for the past 15 years. I don't know. But it's one thing to call for everybody to have a driver's license, but I'm willing to wager that 75% of the people driving the most dangerous vehicles, violating most of the rules, probably can't get a driver's license.
But if they can't afford the license and if they get into a crash or something, heaven forbid, they can't afford the insurance, they can't afford to pay the damages. And so now there's another victim. So I think I would, as much as you want to help people, they can. There's
sorry, that is a idea though, we could add to
that what
force the
people to have insurance.
Yeah, force, but not the companies to have insurance on their drivers, which would incentivize the DoorDashes of the world to keep their drivers in check.
There we go.
Because that is the.
Okay.
Does this letter mention 2-way bike lanes at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Alan, you had two new ideas.
Oh, sorry.
In the information section, published annually, can we get that cut down to maybe semi-annually? You have to wait a whole year to get data.
Sure.
And
Aaron is going to be happy.
there's a comment on install signs in multiple languages.
Yeah.
I think the use of universal graphic signs would be a much better idea than having people like try to.
Where is that? What page?
Infrastructure.
Huh?
I don't think having signs in language are a very good idea in terms of people
Education,
riding by.
right.
So
Yeah.
the graphics should be.
Graphics, yeah, that's one of the problems.
What do you call that? Universal graphic language?
Yeah,
Okay.
however, I'll leave it to the architects to figure that one out.
Right.
Visual graphics.
Okay, that
Okay.
sounds good.
One other thing for me, I just don't understand the line about the e-bikes not having noise. So a regular bicycle has no noise, e-bikes do have noise because they have a motor. I didn't quite get that.
This is a
It
good.
may come from the community, but.
The community, what
They're
is,
quieter than the car perhaps.
no, I think that, yeah, kind of, I mean, they are saying they are coming fast.
Yeah.
Very fast, but there is no noise. So, you know, the concept is, I think the concept they have is to say, a car is dangerous, but I can hear it.
The way that it's written out, it sort of seems to be comparing it to regular cyclists,
Right.
which just that.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
that line needs to be.
What page is that?
It's close to the beginning.
The beginning?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Right.
Sorry.
Require them
No.
to take baseball cards in their wheels to make that.
Yeah.
It's actually the third, I think the third paragraph. Doesn't come from-
When you were asking about having DoorDash with the raw insurance, are we talking about liability insurance? And is there a company that does provide bike insurance?
No, it was talking about liability insurance, but the more I think about it too, my thinking is what they're gonna say is, I'd imagine the way it's structured right now is that these delivery drivers are independent contractors, right? And so therefore, any liability doesn't fall. So really, part one of not requiring insurance actually requires them to make employees, which is already.
Which is the whole point,
Which is
I mean,
the
the
whole
whole point of the process.
But maybe we say, maybe we're never gonna win on that, so maybe we say employees only for the limited, only for liability, not for necessarily, even if they have a minimum wage. I mean, you can.
Well, you can require any,
Okay.
you can require someone to hire, I don't know what, we'd have to get a lawyer to figure out if we can impose.
Well, if somebody can give me some language. I'm
I will
happy.
think
I
about,
think.
yeah, I will think about this.
It's blowing my.
I will think about the language, but I think there is a way to do it where you could limit.
All right, so I think we have done a good job there.
Yeah.
Putting
this
everything out,
letter
the proof is there is nobody from the community.
Yeah.
Showing up to say something.
something, right? Yeah, and I mean, this was a really effort of true brainstorming,
Yeah.
which is great. Like, I don't know, the whole community. It was a great. letter.
So well, I'll put in the little changes, I'll highlight that in red, and you can see whether it's worded properly, right? Because I don't want to recap all of that, I don't know what. Right, more infrastructure, we said that, remove the 15. Dog for the first time, 18 miles per hour visual, it's my notes are really
Yeah, I said,
sketchy.
all right, I'll do a better job.
Right, no noise, and then companies get the insurance, that's you. And then we have a a visual language, a graphic language, something like that, all of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion for that?
Motion.
Okay, second, all in favor?
All right.
All right,
Moving right along.
yes. And then what do we have? Parking regulation changes. Do we have people online who are presenting on that? Janine? Please raise your hand in the, if you are ready to present on the parking regulation changes.
So what else? Here we go, Ellen.
Okay,
And Shana.
yes. And that should be quick.
Great.
Okay.
Welcome to you both. Thank you so much for being here. You guys can jump right in.
Yeah. And if Janine, if you have the PowerPoint, we can look at it at the same time.
I can actually share it. I have it right up here, ready to go.
Great.
Good evening, esteemed members of the Community Board 4. My name is Shayna Frederick. I'm the property manager at the residences at Worldwide Plaza. I'm joined by our board president, Ellen Taylor. Today, I'm here to present the proposed no parking zone request for the 350 West 50th Street building. Next slide, please. As you all know, Worldwide Plaza occupies an entire city block and includes a commercial tower, a residential complex access on 350 West 50th Street and 393 West 49th Street, and a privately owned public plaza with restaurants and off-Broadway theaters. For context, this is an aerial view. And this is the residential complex located between 49th and 50th Street along 9th Avenue. The issue we are here addressing today revolves around the parking challenges faced in front of the 350 West 50th Street building. The current curbside parking situation has caused significant inconveniences for residents, visitors, and local businesses, impacting accessibility, safety, and business operations. Let's begin by understanding the current parking regulations in place. Currently, we have no parking and no standing zones. And parking was recently allowed on both sides of the street on weekends. I'm going to turn it over to Ellen Taylor, our board president.
Great, thanks, Shayna. So several years ago, we had a similar situation that happened at the entrance to our 393 building. There was no drop-off area, and it was really creating a safety issue, especially when people were trying to exit out of a car and somebody else was trying to come up alongside to get around the car. So at that time, we presented to the same committee, I believe, and we were granted a no parking area in front of the 393 building, and it allows a comfortable enough area for cars to be able to pull up and drop off passengers, as well as to unload and load trunks for weekend trips or shopping. So our proposed solution is the establishment of a similar no parking zone in front of the 350 building, which is shown here with the red arrow. This longer red arrow is currently at the 393 building. So this change aims to address the parking challenges effectively and create a more organized parking system on West 50th Street, especially in front of the 350 building. So I'd like to address the advantages of implementing a no parking zone in this location. It would enhance accessibility for residents, visitors, and businesses. By ensuring vehicles don't park in front of the building, we can alleviate some congestion and traffic flow. So we understand that there may be concern about loading and unloading activities, and we want to assure everyone that necessary loading and unloading will still be allowed despite the no parking designation. As the regulation states, you may stop to load and unload packages or merchandise at curbside, and you may stop to expeditiously drop off or pick up passengers. And that's really what we're looking for. And this is the condition you can see over the weekend where somebody is trying to empty their trunk of groceries, and we have large vehicles that are trying to get by. This highlights some of the recent weekend conditions with buses that also use 50th Street as a crosstown route, and it really becomes a challenge when a car is dropping off or unloading packages and blocks these larger vehicles. So what we're really trying to do is strike a balance between maintaining convenience for residents and businesses while improving the overall parking conditions. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share some of this information, and I'm going to turn it back to Shayna Frederick.
Okay. Yeah, I think the same. What's the length of your that you are requesting?
I'm sorry. I was on mute. I'm not finished. I'll be finished in 1 second. So we've received significant support from the local businesses, including esteemed establishments like the Barking Dog restaurant and Hell's Kitchen. Their endorsements emphasize the positive impact on a no parking zone that it would have on the local economy and community as a whole. Regarding next steps, we'll be seeking your support and consideration for the proposed no parking zone. After today's presentation, we welcome any questions or discussion you may have. In conclusion, the establishment of a no parking zone in the front of the 350 West 50th Street building would enhance accessibility, safety, and business operations in the area. We sincerely request your support in this endeavor and appreciate your time and attention today. Should you have any further inquiries, please feel free to ask us. And once again, thank you for your time. And we look forward to working together to improve the parking situation in front of 350 West 50th Street and the surrounding community.
Thank you so much. I think the takeaway is they want to keep the Canadians out, and that's happening. Go ahead, Christine.
So how many parking space or lengths of the zone do you want?
So I believe, and I'm not 100% sure, we would have to verify this. The length that we have currently in front of the 393 building is probably a full 2 vehicles long, so that somebody can actually pull up and be able to be unloading and somebody else can be dropped off. So I believe it may be actually a little bit longer than 2 vehicles. I think we're willing to work with the transportation committee on what is appropriate for this location. On the 350 side, we recognize that we have additional drop-off areas and no standing zones associated with the New World stages and some other activities as well.
Are there any other loading zones, no parking zones on that block?
On that block, towards the east, there is an area in front of the New World stages that is not allowed for parking on the weekends. And I believe the new parking regulations for parking on both sides of the street continues all the way in front of the commercial building. So it's just that one area in front of New World stages and what we're requesting in front of our building entrance.
Why did you put the New World there?
Those are 2 bus lines, by the way, heading west 49th Street and east 50th Street. I don't think there should be any cars parking there at all.
But apparently they did.
Yeah, I took a walk last night about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, and there was 1 car from Texas, 1 from Florida, and the other one from New Jersey, and a couple from New York. On both.
When did that new regulation for parking on the block came to be?
So Shana, do you remember? I think it was about 4 months ago now.
Yes, about.
And it's just on the weekends. So during the week, we have a different set of regulations with what's allowed around the general area, but it's really the Saturday, Sunday condition that has started to exacerbate the situation for us.
So Saturday and Sunday, they added parking allowed.
Huh.
What's wrong with that?
That's very strange. I mean, it must be to alleviate some other parking somewhere else, but I mean, yeah, 15 to make sense to me. I don't know.
Yeah, it's simple. I mean, it's like a neighborhood loading zone.
Yeah. Any other problem?
I have a quick question. I think I fully support the proposal. I'm just curious of your experience on the 49th Street side of the building where you have this. Do you have problems with people trying to park there? I know in the neighborhood, being close to a police precinct, there's people who park with placards and no parking all zones all over our neighborhood, and I'm curious if you've been able to keep it clear.
So it is a little bit of an issue for us, and fortunately our doormen are able to point out that there is a no parking sign. The challenge that we face, and this happens with the tourist buses, the day buses that want to park themselves in front of the building as well, they'll basically say, I'm not parking. I'm here with my vehicle.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a lower priority for the police. So we do what we can to try and keep the area clear. But right now on the 350 side, we don't even have any way to try to get people to stay away from the entrance.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. Thanks for.
No, I just wanted to propose that we have a definitive amount of space, just so it's clear.
Yeah,
What's the standard?
3 vehicles, right? 3, that's 60 feet.
Yeah. All right, you know the feet, I was like, we can, 60 feet is what? 3 vehicles is 60 feet? Oh.
Is it 24 hours no parking or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would there be any issue with overnight parking?
No.
Wait.
Meaning you would like overnight parking or?
I mean, unless they need it clear overnight, I mean, there are people who commute, they drive, they need a place to park, and they know and sometimes it's a release valve for somebody who can't find that spot. So for example, if I need a parking space near where I am, I know if I'm desperate, I can go across the street, because on 24th Street across from 8th Avenue, there's commercial parking during the daytime, but overnight I can park, as long as by 8 o'clock I'm out of that spot.
Is it 24 hours a day on, the current installation?
On the other side, yes, it's 24
Yeah.
hours.
I mean,
Same thing.
It's a residential tower that's 50 stories tall, so I mean, presumably people might need to
24.
make drop offs.
So do we have,
I just feel like it's not the normal commercial zone, it's literally this door in front of this
The front.
residential
Well, but
building.
You know, if it's 2 AM, you need to double park and let people out, as the traffic isn't so heavy, I'm just saying there's a value to having overnight parking for people who get after an hour, just can't keep looking for a free parking spot, so they pull in a commercial spot. And then by 8 o'clock, they move it, that's pretty common.
The rest of the block is no parking during the weekday anyway, so you just stay on weekends.
On weeknights, there's a value to have.
But there is no weeknight parking on the street,
There's no-
that's the whole thing. Well, you're saying so only in this spot? Only in this-
no, I mean, okay,
If that's-
so
if
I
that's
think,
parking all night, then that's.
I think we're fine with that. This is, so to recap, that would be no parking, which we now call neighborhood loading zone, which is the same thing. In front of 350 for 60 feet, 24 by 7. Do we have a motion?
Real quick, sorry, is there anyone in the public who wants to speak on this before we vote?
This is done. We got the letters.
Okay, great, thank you. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Yeah,
Second.
All those in favor?
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Colleen, are you still there? Well, forget about it. It's just kidding. So that's it, right? That's
No.
it. No, yes. Do we have,
Plus permit.
do they have, are they?
They weren't, they may not be here.
Right,
We gotta
are
make
they,
sure they-
let's ask.
Let us ask, is anyone here to present for Zelawar Enterprises on the intercity bus permits? You are here, please.
They didn't
So
send the
deep.
documentation and they didn't.
They really did not.
They sent a letter to Jesse.
Yeah, but this is then we send them a questionnaire.
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Wait.
Can I ask a question?
Sure. With Colleen, are you still there? We need your help.
Oh, yes, I'm still here.
She is.
How are you?
Regarding 22nd Street, West 22nd Street off of 11th Avenue. There used to be the city bike station. Does DOT have plans and a timeframe to replace the bike station there?
There used to be a station, and did we remove it? If we removed
Yes.
it, it has to be, it's probably because of construction.
Construction, well, there is construction that is pretty much done with on the other side of the street. And I think they're about to remove their a shed that they built out there for storage.
Yeah.
I think we sent you a letter on that not too long ago. If you can just check on that, please.
Will do.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Mhm.
Thanks so much.
There's a hand up for Melody in the public. They're bringing her over.
Melody?
Yeah, she's coming over.
Hi, Melody.
Howdy, hold on a second. I'm going under new business. Are we having new business?
Go ahead.
Okay, great. So the West 22nd.
Because half of the people are packed.
Yeah, this is a room full of people ready to leave, so.
Okay. All right. West 22nd Open Shared Street Committee invites everyone to celebrate Gay Pride Weekend on West 22nd between 7th and 8th. Saturday, June 24th. That's this Saturday from 2 to 7 p.m. There will be a DJ, 360 photo booth, and performances by area drag queens, among other festivities. So please remember to remove your vehicles from the street that day by 9:30 a.m. as they will be subject to towing at the vehicle owner's expense. Setup for this Saturday's event will begin at 10 and cleanup will be from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Parking on the street will resume after 9 p.m. Those parking in the 235 West 22nd Street garage will be able to use our emergency lane for access. Driving through the block, however, will be limited for the event and safety precautions. We'd like to thank the over a dozen neighborhood businesses who've come out to support us and who have posted our flyer on their store windows and inside their stores. Thank you. We look forward to seeing everybody this Saturday.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Happy Pride, everybody.
Okay.
Happy solstice, everyone.
And happy Saturday. Motion to adjourn. Someone, motion, second, everybody.
You good?
Look at this in-person meeting, God, done by.
We did it.
Thank you, Janine.
All right,
Good
thank you.
job, Jesse.
Good night.
Sharon.
Good job.
Good job, that's your job.
Thanks, everybody. Thank